Hi there, everybody. I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this beautiful evening, and I warmly welcome each one of you to PSTV. So, today I'm going to start the episode with a fun fact. This is something that I recently read over the internet, and it says that in Denmark, there are libraries where you do not borrow books, but you borrow people. Yes, and what do you do? The goal here is to fight prejudice, right? And what it actually does is, you borrow a person and they recite their life experiences to you for 30 minutes. And I know that's going to do a world of good, isn't it? Learning from others' experiences, right? So that's a fun fact, and that's something really awed me. Yes, so I thought I will bring that to all my dear viewers here watching me today live. Yes, and this innovative project, it is called the Human Library, and that's something so very interesting, isn't it? If you have heard of any such fun facts, then do let me know in the comment box, and I would be all ears and eager to know what is the fun fact that you know about books and libraries, maybe, right? So, yes, with that thought, maybe let's move ahead to today's episode. It's going to be a unique episode because it is Saturday and we are going to break down a classic, right? You heard me correct. And let me now move ahead to the breakdown of a classic, Unleash the Writer in You. And what do we have coming up in this episode? Yeah, right. So let me give you a glimpse of all the things that we are going to explore in today's episode. There's going to be a book that we are going to talk about. It's going to be a classic, yes. And we will be talking about the title and also the author, something about the author's life, and also try and understand how we can be writing a story on or maybe taking inspiration from that particular title that we are going to explore today, right? So for that particular title, we will be looking into the essentials, the plot builder pointers, and finally, I would also be giving you a synopsis of the story. Yes, so that sounds interesting, isn't it? So do stay tuned in here with me. And along with all these things or items that I just now mentioned, we will also be having some fun segments like always. So they are a fun fact, recommendation of the day, some Google it words, and also the locate the word crossword. And of course, we will also be having some quizzes in between the episode. And for that, for you to be able to answer the quiz questions correctly, you need to listen to the story intently. Yes. So let's now get going with the first segment here. It's going to be an icebreaker question for today. And the first icebreaker question that comes up on my screen, this or that, eating alone or eating with everyone? That's the question that I have for all of my dear viewers. And please go ahead, write your answers in the chat box and let me know what is it that you prefer, eating all alone or eating with everyone, with your family members, with friends, maybe. Yes, you can give me that answer in the chat box. And first of all, let me tell you that I really like eating with my family members. Yes, so at home we have this tradition where I know people are really busy these days, but we generally try and follow the rule of eating together. Yes, so at least one meal of the day, may it be lunch or dinner, we try and spend some time together, and it's really fun to be doing that, right? So let me see some of your comments here. And most of the comments tell me that you all prefer eating with everyone. Yes. So eating lunch with family members, going out and eating with friends. Great. So, yes, eating alone becomes a little boring, isn't it? Right, I can totally understand that. So I have comments here which is pointing towards eating with everyone. That's the majority that I am getting here as responses. And thanks for being a participative audience. And thanks for all of the emojis that you have been sending me. So that's good. So stay tuned in here with me as we explore the story, the classic story for today. And let me quickly now get going to the next segment, which is what's the book. I know all of you are eager to know which is the classic that we are going to unravel today. Yes. So let me bring that out to you. Here it is. The book is The Merchant of Venice. So I'm sure it's a popular classic and you all would have heard about it and might also have read the book here. Yes. So The Merchant of Venice. Do comment in the chat box and let me know if you have read this book. Yes. So that's the book that we are going to unravel for today, and it's going to be really interesting to see what is the plot that it entails about, right? So the first category that we have here is the title. So what's the meaning? What can you understand from the title, The Merchant of Venice? Yes. So that's quite obvious that in this book, there is a merchant in Venice, and that is what it gives us a general idea about. So the merchant lives in Venice, which is in Italy, and it's quite obvious that the story will revolve around this particular merchant. He's going to be the protagonist, and we are also going to talk about his life with the backdrop of the beautiful city of Venice. Yes, so that's what we get to know from the title. But let's also go ahead with the episode and find out what is this book all about, right? So next we are going to see another icebreaker question, this or that, cake or ice cream. So that's a difficult option, right? If you want to prefer one of them, then which is the option that you will be going for, cake or ice cream? Okay, so I have a comment there from Varun, and it says it's a difficult choice. Both of them is another comment that I get from Prisha. Okay, and cake coming up next. I also have ice cream, and I think I will prefer a dollop of ice cream on my cake. Yes, that sounds interesting, isn't it? Am I tempting you with all of these options here? Yes, so I have a lot of emojis come up there. Great. So both of them coming up as responses in my chat box here. It's a mixed bag response, but I think I will prefer and a dollop of ice cream on my cake. Yes, that's what I will try to do. But then I have mixed responses here, and it's totally understandable. Yes, so cake or ice cream was the question, so you can keep on writing to me and I will be glad to read out your answers. Okay, so moving on now, we have the author. So the book that we are going to unravel today, the classic, is The Merchant of Venice, and it is written by William Shakespeare. Yes, so William Shakespeare was born on 23rd April 1564 at Warwickshire, England. Yes, his wife's name was Anne Hathaway, and he had three children. He has written a lot of plays which have become famous. So, to be precise, he has written 37 plays, 154 sonnets, and hundreds of poems. And he performed both before the Queen Elizabeth I and also King James I. And let me also give you a fun fact here. Shakespeare even put a curse on his own grave, barring people from moving the dead body. So that was one fun fact about Shakespeare. And as we all now have known that this famous play, The Merchant of Venice, it's a tragic comedy which was written by Shakespeare in the late 16th century. Yes. So that was some snippet on the life of the author. And moving on now, we have another icebreaker question, which is this or that, amusement park or zoo? Okay, so that's a fun question there. Which one would you prefer? Would you prefer to go to an amusement park or to a zoo? Okay, so quickly I have responses come up in the chat box, and it says zoo. And I know it's really interesting to go to the zoo or to the safari, maybe look at the animals at their in their natural habitat. Yes, and spot some wildlife, and really it becomes so very exciting, isn't it? So zoo is a place which I would also prefer than the amusement park, because I get to see a lot of animals, right? Lovely. So amusement park or zoo, and the options that I'm getting here is majority zoo option that I'm getting here. Lovely. Great going there. So nice. So after that fun question, let's move on to the next segment. And this is what's the genre that we are talking about in The Merchant of Venice. So I have already revealed out that genre there a little while back, but let me see if you would have all heard me intently, and let me know if you can guess this genre The Merchant of Venice is situated in 60 seconds. Yes, so that's not much time, so you need to be quick with your answers and let me know the genre that Merchant of Venice is based upon. Okay. So the clock has already started ticking. Let me see if you can give me some answers. And I get the answer which says comedy. Okay. But it is comedy category. But then what's the specific category called? Yes, that's the correct response there. So Merchant of Venice is tragic comedy, right? So that's the genre. And let's now go ahead further into our episode and check out all the essentials in writing a tragic comedy just like The Merchant of Venice. Yes. So the first essential that we have comes up here next. We have the first essential as the hero, and then the villain, and also the dispute. Yes. So this is just like any other story writing that we have seen in all of these episodes. So the three essential characteristics in writing a tragic comedy: the hero, the villain, and the dispute. So let's delve into each of them one by one. The first element that we have here is the hero. So today, please understand that we are talking about this particular classic book here, The Merchant of Venice. So all of the essentials that we are going to talk about today will be based on this, the story of Merchant of Venice, right? So the hero in this particular story is Antonio, and he is also the main character who is also the Merchant of Venice. Yes. So we always see in this story that the characteristic that we have for Antonio is he is melancholic in nature, and the he himself does not know the reason of why he is so. Yes. So Antonio in this story loves only one person dearly, and that is his best friend Bassanio, and he is sworn enemies with Shylock, who is the Jew of Venice. Yes, so that was about the hero Antonio. And moving further ahead, we have the second essential, which is the villain. So, as I already told you, the villain is none other than Shylock, and he is a tragic hero in the story. He is a Jew, and he is also a money lender in Venice. That's his profession. And we also see all through the story plot that this person, Shylock, who is the villain, he is very religious and possessive about his money and also about his daughter. The name of his daughter is Jessica. And we see that how the Jew here, Shylock, he is very calculative in nature, and he hates Antonio to a point that he wants to take revenge with Antonio, right? Now, he has always been portrayed as a victim in the play because of the mistreatments that were meted out to him because of the community that he came from. And we always see that. Some famous dialogues which he has always talked about in this play about the community of Jews. Yes. So that was about the villain, which is who is Shylock, and his daughter is named Jessica, right? So that was the second essential there. And now, when we move ahead to the third essential, it is to do with the dispute. So the major dispute in this play was between Shylock, the villain, and Antonio, the hero of the story, right? And this forms the integral part of the play. Now, the main reason of the dispute is the communities that both of them come from. Shylock is a Jew, whereas Antonio is a Christian, right? So none of them are willing to let go the hatred that they have for each other, and they always are looking for a chance to take revenge. Yes, so that forms the dispute, and which is the integral part of the play. So these were the three essentials that we had in writing a story just like Merchant of Venice: the hero, who is Antonio; the villain, who is the Jew named Shylock; and then the third main characteristic is the dispute, where both of these protagonists and the villain want to always take revenge, right? So these were the three essentials. Now, moving ahead, we have the first Google It word for today, and this is melancholic. So, what's the meaning of the word melancholic? It only means to say that an extreme feeling of sadness or tragedy, right? So, when someone has severe form of depression, they could be called melancholic in nature. So, that's the word. So, do check that word out in Google, come up with your own answers, and also understand why the play here is tragic in nature, because Antonio, the protagonist, is always melancholic. Yes. So that was the first word that we had for our Google It segment, melancholic, and it comes from the root word melancholy, right? So now moving ahead to the next icebreaker question, this or that, super speed or super strength, which is the one that you would prefer. Would you prefer super speed or would you prefer super strength? That's the question that I have for all of my dear viewers here. And let me know in the comment box, what is it that you would prefer? Okay, so I see super strength coming up here. Thanks for that response there, Vaibhav. And I also see super speed coming up next. So again, another response from Prisha, which says super strength. Great. I think super strength is something which is the one option that all of my dear viewers want here. And maybe you can also think about this and let me know what is the particular strength that you would want, mental strength or physical strength. Yes. Great going there. So thanks again for all of these responses and the emojis as well. And Prisha telling me that she is eager to know about the story. Great. So yes, do stay tuned in here. We will be giving you the synopsis of the story, The Merchant of the Venice. Yes, and it's really, really interesting. Okay, so let's move ahead now to the next segment, which is Think Like a Pro. Now, there are other interesting characters in this story, The Merchant of Venice. So let's get to know each one of them. Yes. So here today, I am not going to ask you to guess for any of the answers. I'm going to bring about certain facts, certain characters from this story, The Merchant of Venice, right? So the first character that we have here is Portia. Portia is the beautiful heroine of the play who marries Bassanio and later saves Antonio. She saves the day by disguising as a lawyer and talking in favor of Antonio there. And she relieves Antonio from the clutches of Shylock through her intelligence and wit, right? So she is also shown as a heiress from Belmont, right? So that's the heroine of the play, Portia. And she has basic traits like being intelligent, witty, and also being beautiful, right? So that was about Portia, the heroine of the play. And moving on, we have another character, which is Bassanio. So Bassanio is the best friend of Antonio, someone who Antonio dearly loves. And it is because of him, because of Bassanio, that Antonio had to borrow money from Shylock, right? So they share a strong bond. And Bassanio is the character who marries Portia at the end, right? So that was about the dear friend of Antonio, Bassanio. Yes. So now moving ahead to the next character, we have Jessica, who is the daughter of Shylock. Shylock is the villain in Merchant of Venice, and the daughter of Shylock is Jessica, right? Now we see through the plot that Jessica elopes with Antonio's friend Lorenzo, who is a Christian. So she basically disregards her father's emotions and elopes with Lorenzo. Yes. So as we go ahead into our story, you're going to get a clear understanding of how that story plot moves ahead, right? So now, for now, we just need to know that there is another character who is Jessica, and she is the daughter of Shylock, the villain, right? Now, moving ahead, we have the last character that we are going to discuss here. And this character is called Graciano, and Graciano is also another friend of Antonio. So Antonio, Graciano, and Bassanio, these three characters are dear friends, and we always see that Graciano often insults Shylock and accompanies Bassanio to Belmont to take the hand of Portia. And there Graciano comes across Nerissa, who is Portia's maid, and they fall in love, right? So now this is another friend of Antonio and Bassanio, who is Graciano. So who were the characters that we saw? The first character was Portia, who was the heroine of the play and the love interest of Bassanio. And then we saw the second character, who was Bassanio himself, and he is a dear friend of Antonio. And then the third character that we saw was Jessica, who who is the daughter of Shylock the villain. And the fourth character that we saw here was Graciano, who is also friends with Antonio and Bassanio, right? So these were the other characters, the main important characters in the play The Merchant of Venice, right? So now let's move ahead to another segment. And here we have the quiz time, right? So if you have all heard me intently, then you would be giving me the correct answers to these questions. I have already discussed the answers for these questions in my episode until now, right? So the first question that I have: who was the sworn enemy of Shylock? So that's quite easy, right? Who was the sworn enemy of Shylock the Jew? Okay, so I'm going to give you some time so that you can answer the question here. And yes, I am getting correct responses there. The enemy of Shylock in this play is the protagonist, who is Antonio, right? Lovely. Great going there. Okay, now let's move ahead to the next question. Who was Antonio's best friend? That's the other question that I have. Let me see if you can give me correct answers to this one. But let me also give you some clue here. The best friend that we are talking about, he is the one who tries to marry the heroine, Portia. So who was the best friend of Antonio? Yes, and that's the correct response there. Some handful of responses that I'm getting. Bassanio, yes, he was the best friend of Antonio and also the love interest of Portia, right? Now, moving ahead to the third question that we have for today. What was Shylock's profession? Now, that's quite easy, right? Yes, money lending was the profession that Shylock was into, and this was in the place of Venice, right? Beautiful city of Venice in Italy. Yes, and moving ahead now to the fourth question, which is the last question in today's episode for this particular segment of quiz time. We have another segment which will be coming later up in the episode. But the last question for now is this: how was Antonio's mood all the time? We had a Google it word for that. Yes, and that's the correct response there. The meaning is tragic, but what's the exact word? Okay, let me give that word out to you. It's melancholic, right? Great. Now, these were the fun quiz questions, and you all did a wonderful job. So, let's now move on to the next segment, which is plotting the plot. So, we already saw the essentials. We need a hero, a villain, and a dispute to write a story like The Merchant of Venice, right? Now, the plot building pointers, we need other characters, the revenge, and also the relief, right? So, let's get into this one by one and check out what is the first one. So there are other characters that we need for a story like this to build our plot on, right? So only the hero and the villain would not suffice. So we need some other side characters. So just like in The Merchant of Venice, we have other characters like Antonio's best friend Bassanio and Graciano, and then apart from the villain Shylock, his daughter Jessica, and also her maid Nerissa, right? And apart from that, we also have the heroine who is Portia and another character Lancelot Gobbo, right? So all of these characters have their own personality and they have been written very nicely in this play. Yes, so we need some other characters so that it helps us in building up our plot further ahead. Yes, now the second element here is the revenge. So we see in The Merchant of Venice that Antonio, the main protagonist, and Shylock, the villain, are always at loggerheads, and they always are ready to not miss an opportunity to take revenge. Yes, so the events that are leading up to the revenge, like Bassanio asking money from Antonio, and the whole calculative idea of revenge that Shylock has, and how one basic plot, one basic maybe agreement that he has with Antonio while lending the money, all of this calculation that Shylock has, all of this is part of the revenge, right? And these are integral part to the play. So when I tell you the story finally at the end of the episode, then you will understand what is the revenge that I am talking about, right? So the second main element there is the revenge, and then sorry, we also have the third element, which is the relief. So the relief is provided by Bassanio's pursuit of Portia in Belmont, and the humor is added throughout the play, right? So it's a tragic comedy, The Merchant of Venice. And when I delve deeper into the snippets of the story, then you will understand what is the relief that we are talking about here. But for now, let's understand that the relief stems from the whole scene where there are different suitors who have come to take Portia's hand, and what happens next, right? So that is the third element in plotting the plot. So let me summarize all of the three elements there in plotting the plot. We had the first element of the other characters, some side characters to support our story plot, and then the second main element being the revenge, and the third element being the relief, right? So these were the plot pointers for writing a short story just like The Merchant of Venice. And now, after we have seen the story plot pointers, let's move ahead to the next segment, which is a Did You Know? So this Did You Know, or this fact, is about the author of Merchant of Venice, who is William Shakespeare. And let me tell you that William Shakespeare is regarded as world's greatest dramatist, and he has also acted in many of his own plays. Yes, that was the fact that we had for today's episode here. And let's now quickly move ahead to the next segment, which is the story in a nutshell. Yes, so we are already in that segment that we were eagerly waiting for, the story in a nutshell. So now I am going to give you some snippets of the story and make you understand what the story, The Merchant of Venice, was all about. Yes, so as the first scene starts, Act 1, it starts in Venice, which is a beautiful city in Italy. And the merchant of Venice, named Antonio, he worries that his ships are overdue, and he is not actually able to locate them. So his young friends, when they hear about this particular tough time that Antonio is going through, his dear friends, namely Bassanio and Gratiano, they accompany him to Venice. And we see that how uh, you know, in that particular scene, we also see that there is the heroine of this Merchant of Venice, who is named Portia. She is the heiress of Belmont. And in another scene, we see that in Belmont, there are suitors who have come up to take her hand for marriage, and how this particular proceeding happens. That's also parallelly happening in Belmont, right? So moving back to the setting in Venice, all of these three friends have come together. They are dear friends of Antonio. Yes, Antonio is seen in a melancholic mood because of the news that he has got about his cargo in the ships that have lost in sea, right? So that is the whole setting there in the first act. And we also see that Bassanio, he wants to go up to Portia to take her hand. And for doing that, since Portia is a wealthy heiress from Belmont, he needs some money. Now, Bassanio asks money from Antonio, and then because he gathers to know that Antonio cannot lend him any money because of the situation that he is in, Bassanio is also a little heartbroken at that moment, right? So then Antonio says that he can't help him because of the money being tied up in the cargo, and that's the first scene there. Moving ahead, the first theme that we have is Antonio versus Shylock, right? So let's see what happens there. Now, Shylock is introduced. Yes. So Bassanio, as I already told you, asks loan from and sorry, he asks money from Antonio, but he gets to know that Antonio cannot really help him. So what he does next is he tries to take a loan from Shylock, who is a Jew and who is a money lender by profession in Venice, right? So he asks a loan from Shylock, and Shylock readily agrees to give him the money, but the only clause that he has is he will lend him the money if Antonio agrees to be a guarantor. Now, this is a calculative move by the villain Shylock, because he is wanting to take revenge from Antonio. Now, on that particular condition there, Antonio also is ready to sign a bond. But the another important clause that Shylock puts forth in that particular bond there is that if Antonio or Bassanio is not able to pay the money in full or return the lended amount in full within 3 months, then Shylock will have a pound of Antonio's flesh, to which Antonio agrees. So that's a weird statement to add in an agreement, but Antonio somehow is very confident and he goes ahead with that particular agreement. So this clause in the agreement is an integral part to the story. And let me bring that out again. Shylock has written in the agreement that if Antonio is not able to return the money within 3 months, then he will have Antonio's 1 pound of flesh, right? That's the agreement that they signed. In between the scenes, Shylock also recalls how Antonio has insulted him and his religion several times, to which Antonio is also at loggerheads with Shylock, right? So that's an angle of revenge that we see there. That's the theme number one. And moving ahead to theme number two, there is another theme which is of love and friendship that we see in the story of Merchant of Venice, right? So let's move ahead to this theme in the story plot. As I told you, parallelly in Belmont, all the suitors have come to take the hand of Portia, who is the wealthy heiress of Belmont, right? Here we see that there is a strange will that Portia's father has made, and in this will, he says that the suitors who come to marry Portia, they should choose between three caskets. The possible options are golden, silver, and lead, right? So one of Portia's suitors, who is the Prince of Morocco, he chooses the golden casket. And from this particular scene, we get the quote, "All that glisters is not gold." Yes, that's an important fact as well. And the other suitor from Aragon, the Prince of Aragon, he chooses the silver casket, and both of them are unsuccessful at their attempt. Yes. And finally, we also see that Jessica, the daughter of Shylock, she is also unhappy living with Shylock, and she also wants to, leave the home. But we also see that how it gets highlighted that Jessica elopes with Lorenzo, betraying her father, and while doing so, she also takes some jewels and her mother's ring with her, which has sentimental value. After which Shylock becomes erratic and he comes onto the streets, right? So Shylock really loves his daughter, but when Jessica takes such a big step of eloping with Lorenzo and taking the family wealth along with her, Shylock becomes erratic, right? So that's what we see in this particular scene of love and friendship. Yes. And also Jessica is wanting to marry Lorenzo, right? So there's a love angle there, and we can also see in Belmont, suitors coming up to take Portia's hand, right? Now this is the love and friendship angle of the story, and let's now move ahead to another Google it word, which is erratic. So erratic generally means not being of sensible mind, or not being even or regular, right? So that's the meaning of erratic. Do check that out in Google, and do not forget to add that word in your words repository of words, right? Now let's move ahead quickly to the other scene that is playing in The Merchant of Venice. Now here we get the news of Antonio's ships being wrecked and has reached Venice, right? All the people who are gathered in Venice, they come to know of this bad luck that has happened to Antonio, right? And in Belmont, where there are suitors coming up to marry Portia, we see that Bassanio chooses the right casket of lead, and he wins Portia, and the affair of Graciano and Nerissa also comes to light. And there's also another couple, Lorenzo and Jessica, who have eloped, right? And they also join them. So there are three couples here, Bassanio and Portia, and then Graciano and Nerissa, and also Lorenzo and Jessica, right? At the same time, a letter arrives from Antonio for Bassanio, mentioning that everything that has happened about the ships and the wreckage. And also, Bassanio now knows that Antonio is in trouble because he will not be able to repay the money that he has taken from Shylock. So he rushes to be by the side of Antonio to Venice, and Portia also goes to Venice along with her maid Nerissa, but she has gone in disguise as a lawyer, right? So this is one important scene that plays up in The Merchant of Venice. And let's now move ahead to the other Google it word that I have, which is disguise. So disguise means having changed one's appearance, okay, and secretly changing appearance and going prepared as someone else, right? That's the meaning of the word disguise. Do check that word out in Google. So to conceal one's identity or being secretive and change one's appearance, that's the meaning of disguise, right? So Portia, along with her maid Nerissa, they both go on in disguise as lawyers to Venice because they also know that Antonio is now in trouble because his ships are wrecked and he cannot pay back the money to Shylock, right? Now, what happens next is very interesting. Shylock sends Antonio to prison for having failed to repay the loan, and here the trial starts. Now, the court scene where the trial is progressing, and Shylock says that he has included this particular statement in the bond that he would now take 1 pound of flesh from Antonio because he has failed to repay. That's an important scene that happens in this Merchant of Venice story. Yes, Shylock is adamant, and now he can see that he can take his revenge from Antonio, and he refuses to settle, and he says that he now wants only 1 pound of flesh and nothing else. Yes, the hatred that he has for Antonio is clearly visible. Now, Portia enters the scene along with Nerissa, disguised as the lawyer, and she saves the day, and she finds a loophole in this agreement. And as we say, the devil is in the details, right? So Portia is always portrayed as a witty and intelligent character in the story. So the loophole that she finds is she says that the bond only demands that they could take 1 pound of flesh, but while doing that, not even a single ounce of blood should spill. Now, that is the loophole that she finds in the agreement. And as all my viewers can really understand, that's clearly not possible, right? Taking a pound of flesh from a man without there being a spillage of 1 ounce of blood, that's really not possible. Now, when this happens, Shylock immediately backs up because he also understands that that's really not possible. But by that time, it's too late. And he is, however, shown some mercy in terms of money and estate by the Duke and also by Antonio. So Antonio is the one who lends some kind of mercy towards Shylock, and he's forced to convert to Christianity in order to keep his estate, and he also loses his daughter. He is completely shattered and erratic. In the end, we see that the characters in Belmont, the lovers, all of the lovers are united, and they reveal that some of Antonio's ships were saved from the wreckage, while Lorenzo learns that he will inherit Shylock's property. Thereby, the play ends as the three couples prepare to celebrate their marriages. So that was the story in a gist. Yes, and let me also show you. So the theme that we just now spoke about was fire of vengeance and its consequences, right? And the word, the Google it word that we have next is vengeance. So what does vengeance mean? It only means the punishment inflicted after the injury, right? So do check that word out. It's a negative word. And check that word in Google, come up with your responses, and don't forget to have that word in your list of words or in your repository of words. Yes? Okay. So that was the story of Merchant of Venice. Do let me know in the chat box if you had fun listening to that story. It's a classic story, and I remember as a school-going child, I had once taken part in this play, Merchant of Venice, and I had played the part of Portia. So it's really interesting to have all these dialogues the the dialogue where the punch that she has when she says that famous dialogue from Merchant of Venice, that you can take the pound of flesh, but it has to be done without a spillage of an ounce of blood, right? So the punch that it has to the whole story, it's really interesting, right? So let's now quickly move ahead to another quiz time. And the first question that we have: which casket did Bassanio choose? That's the first question that I have. So, let me give that to you. From all of the caskets, golden, silver, and lead, which was the casket that Bassanio choose? And finally, he, got the hand of Portia. That's right, it was lead. Correct. And from this scene, we get the famous quote, "All that glisters is not gold," which later on got converted to "All that glitters is not gold," right? Lovely. So the next question, yes, the lead casket is the answer. And the next question that we have: who saved Antonio? So who was the witty character who saved Antonio by finding the loophole? That's right. It was the heroine of the story, Portia. Yes. And the third question that we have for today: where did Portia live? She was a wealthy heiress, and I told you the name of the place. That is correct. It was Belmont. Yes, so that was the last word, the last question in the quiz time, and let us now move over to another fun segment, which is locate the words. Right. So I'm going to give you only 1 minute, and you need to quickly come up with answers. This is a letter maze that I have for you here, and can you find out the words that are hidden in this letter maze? All the words are from they are related to today's story, and they could be written diagonally, horizontally, or even vertically. Yes. So what are the words that you can see? Let me see if my viewers here today have an eagle's vision and they can quickly come up with the answers. Okay, so some of the responses coming up there in the chat box. Revenge is the correct response. Money is also the right response. Okay, so you have already answered two of the words there. So quick. I can give you 10 more seconds maybe. Okay, so let me reveal out the answers one by one. The first one that comes up here is the character Portia. Then the second one that I have is pound, that you could not guess, and also revenge and money. Yes, so those were the four words: Portia, pound, revenge, and money. Great, lovely. Okay, so today let me bring about another recommendation of the day. This is another play or a book written by William Shakespeare, and it's a very popular classic. It's called Macbeth. The title of the book is Macbeth. Yes. So this is a play about a Scottish nobleman and his wife who murder their king for his throne, and it also charts the extremes of character traits like ambition and guilt. Yes, so that's an interesting story there. Macbeth, again written by William Shakespeare, and it's a classic play. So do go ahead and check out this title, Macbeth. It's a recommendation for all of my dear viewers. And let's now move ahead to the next segment, which is a fun project work. So as I tell you always, only when you execute all the learnings, it's going to bring some advantage to you, right? So implement all that you have learned today and draft a tragic comedy story inspired by the book The Merchant of Venice, right? So that's something that I strongly encourage all of my dear viewers to be doing. Yes. And now let's move ahead to the next genre that we are going to explore on Monday. So it's going to be fantasy. Yes. So there are going to be some fantastical elements that we are going to see in a genre for fantasy. So do stay tuned with me on Monday as well at 6 p.m. India time. I am Sapna signing out, and have a great weekend. Enjoy your time and take care. Bye bye.